Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to Dr. Fadzillah, my dearest lecturer, and also to my fellow friends in Kuliah as well. So I am Mohd Syahmi bin Karim, and matrix number is AS11128. We'll be presenting about correlation and regression analysis between the number of cups of coffee consumed in a week and hours spent sleeping in a week. Before we start, I'll show you the group members. Okay, so there's 5 of us, and I'll be the one doing the presentation alone. So Nabil bin Helmy, Nurul, Shafiqah, Binti, Sukri, Zulaikha, and also Aishah, Yunus. Without further ado, let's start. A little bit of background info about why we did our experiment, our project, our survey. Is because we wanted to see just how far is coffee really helping adults in staying up late at night. As we know, coffee contains caffeine, which actually stimulates us to, which actually slows down the production of melatonin. Right. So we just want to see how far and how effective it is to actually help us stay up late at night. And objectives, there are 3 of them. The first one is to study the relationship between number of cups of coffee consumed and hours spent sleeping in a week. I believe I do not have to explain this because it is quite obvious. The hypothesis of this is that the more coffee you drink in a week, the lesser the hour of sleep you get in a week. But what's interesting in here is our second and third objective. To add a little bit of twist in this experiment, we actually compare not only between students, but between adults who are studying and also adults who are working. Different environment, and we thought that it might produce a different outcome. So the second objective is to compare average consumption between these 2 types of adults, and also the third one is to compare the sleeping hours between these 2 adults. So let's see. So this is the first set of data. I'm sorry if you can't really see it, I'll scroll down after this. This is the first set of data, and that is the second set of data. So we'll go through the first set of data, and then we'll go through the second set of data. Okay, so the first set of data is number of cups of coffee consumed in a week, and the second set is hours spent sleeping after consuming coffee. So if you allow me, I'll read you the tables. Okay, this is the table, and then we'll look at the graphs. So the table, the first set of data, as you can see, number of cups of coffee consumed in a week, and students and workers. Okay, so it is divided into 2 groups, yes, 2 communities, students and also workers. And between the number of cups of coffee, we divide it into 5. So there are 5 types of people who actually drank 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, as you can see, since a little bit of insight of this presentation, just to help you get a clear info. The number of respondents for workers were 30 people, and for students were 70 students. Okay, so we will not be calculating based on over 100, no, but to put to ease the calculation and the observation of this experiment, we had divided it and made it into percentage wise. So as for workers, it's per 30, and for students, it's per 70. Okay, so the ones with higher percentage will actually represent greater meaning. Okay, so let's have a look at the students one first. Okay, so for students, we can see that the it's actually quite scattered. Okay, because majority of the students, yes, 25 of them actually drank only 1 cup of coffee per week, but some of them drank 3 cups of coffee per week. Okay, so if you put it into percentage wise, obviously students who drank only 1 cup of coffee would win in majority. But then again, you must remember that the data is actually quite scattered because there are a lot of types of groups of people among the students themselves. And let's have a look at the workers. As you can see, workers who actually drank only 1 cup of coffee per week is the minority here, 1 or 2, minority. Okay, and the majority for workers community is actually those who drink 5 cups of coffee, which makes up to 1/3 of their community themselves. And this shows that maybe, just maybe, students are not very dependent on coffee Maybe because of the assignments that they were given were not very heavy, or maybe it was also affected by other types of factors. As you can see, workers have higher number of cups of coffee consumption per week, maybe because of the work rate. As we all know, that the work rate in Malaysia is actually quite the highest, and people are actually spending time overworking per day, and they actually get less salary. So this graph actually explains why majority of them actually have to have coffee to actually assist them and help them stay up late at night. So let's move on to the graph. Yes, the graph. So as you can see, the markers are actually the plotted ones. For students it's blue, for workers it's orange, and the dotted lines are the best fit line. Okay, as you can see, I'll explain the workers first because it's easier for me to explain. Workers best fit line is actually quite straightforward, and it's actually quite pretty. Okay, however, for students it's actually quite scattered, and you can't really see the flow in it. Okay, so if we were to correlate this with Pearson's model, workers will actually show a positive correlation. Workers will actually show an even nicer distribution. Okay, because it has a flow, it's going up, it's a positive correlation. However, as for students, it can be considered as negative correlation also, because the graph is actually, the line is actually going up, but it's not very visible. Because as you can see, number of students here is actually fluctuating between going down and going up. Okay, so the line is actually not very pretty. So moving on to our second set. Hours spent sleeping between students and workers. Okay, so what do we have here? Majority of them, both of the community, actually spend less than 5 hours of sleep. Actually get less than 5 hours of sleep. However, for students, as you can see that there's actually one student who actually get 9 hours of sleep after consuming coffee. This thing is possible, no problem. However, it must be assumed that the student himself or themselves actually drank coffee on weekends, which actually allows them to wake up late. Okay, as for workers, majority of them had less than 5 hours of sleep. This can also be related to the commitment and the responsibility they have to actually get up to work by 8 AM in the morning, every day, fixed. Okay? So, about the graph, okay, again, workers showed an even better distribution compared to students. Workers showed a better Pearson model, okay, a negative correlation compared to students. Okay, because there's actually a huge difference between students, between those who actually spend who actually get less than 5 hours of sleep and actually get 6 hours of sleep. Okay, so methodology. Okay, how we did this. Data was collected within 2 communities. First community consisted of students, yeah, I explained this now, and second community only consisted of technical workers from various companies. Yes, there are 3 companies in this case, which I will explain later. Dependent variable, yes. So dependent variable in this case, I have set it to set 1 and set 2. So dependent variable in set 1 and 2 is the number of people, and the independent variable is the number of cups of coffee consumed in a week, which is our first set, and the hours spent sleeping after consuming coffee, which is our second set. That is the independent variable. And correlation used is negative correlation for hours spent sleeping after consuming coffee. Why is it negative again? Because it is going up. Okay, so the higher the amount of coffee that you drank per week, the lesser the average sleep that you get per week. Okay, and that actually fits our hypothesis. So, what else? What is graph? Recommendation, conclusion. Okay, I'll show you the proof that we actually collected data from these 2 communities. Hold on. So these were the forms, okay, that were distributed through Google Forms for students. Okay, it had 70 responses. Okay, correlation regression analysis between the number of cups of coffee consumed in a week and hours spent sleeping in a week. That is the title. And we had 70 responses. So majority of them were female. So female cooperated more than male, I assume. So these were the questions. Okay. So as you can see, there are a lot of colors in the pie chart, and that actually shows that the distribution between students were actually very scattered. I mean, they are not clearly purely defined by the most and least, but it is well scattered. Okay, so let's have a look at the. Did you find it hard to sleep after consuming coffee? So majority of them actually say no. Okay, so this actually contradicts to our findings and our hypothesis, because we initially thought that coffee would actually make it harder for us to sleep, but then again, majority of them say no. Okay, so as for what did they do if they will stay up, this is for students, yeah. So assignment take up the most, which is 54%, almost half of them. But then again, revision also takes up 20%, and some were doing chores, some were watching movie. A considerable amount were actually watching movie, and the others were hanging out with their friends and maybe watching drama and all. Okay, so it's very studentish life. See, so what else? How many cups do you consume in a week? Yeah, this is all I've explained just now. So this is for the workers. Okay, so this is actually the form that we made, our group made, for workers to actually fill. Okay, this was personally my dad's working company. Okay, Selcom Aziata, and these were his colleagues. Okay, so Mr. Nazar Abu Hanifah filled in the survey, and he's very close to me as well, and one of my dad's workers. And this is for the workers from College Keselatan Sungai Buloh and Maybank. And this was done thanks to Shafiqah, because her parents actually distributed the forms. Okay, so however, there were only 2 pictures of them. So this is the first picture and the second picture. Okay, as you can see, it's the same form with the Salcom, and it's printed. And after they submitted, they actually sent us the data, and we actually screened them, we actually extracted them, and we made representation. Okay, so another strong point to add regarding comparing workers and students. As you can see just now, that students, although majority of them actually stayed up to do academic related stuffs, a considerable amount actually stayed up to hang out with their friends or do other things. However, it is not for Selcom employees. Okay, question 6. Please refer to this one, and the legend is on the right side. What did you do if you stayed up? Majority of them answered 1. 1 stands for working stuffs. Okay, and only a little amount of them, which is 4 in total, actually did things other than working, which is social media or even movie or house chores. Okay, so this is the data that I actually wanted to show you to make it clear that there are differences between adults who are studying and adults who are working. So what is the conclusion? So the conclusion is that we actually found out the number of cups of coffee is a negative correlation with hours spent sleeping in a week, and we can also conclude that adults who are working consume more numbers of coffee than those who are studying. So recommendation for our next experiment also includes providing more options for respondents to answer, so that we give them the flexibility for them to actually answer honestly, not only according to our justification and our given criteria. A face-to-face respondent, a face-to-face interview would be better somehow, because it allows them to actually speak honest thoughts, and actually allows us to actually have a deeper look at the data, so that we don't actually touch only on the surface, but we actually know more on the experiment that we are conducting. And the third one is the collect more data from responses to get more accurate results. Okay, yes, The first one is actually quite important because let's say if we were to only limit the community or the survey to only 50 respondents, 50 respondents, who assuming that the 50 does not represent the whole community itself, because the community is even bigger than 50, let's say 2,000 or 3,000. So it would not actually portray the accurate data that we actually managed to obtain. So in this case, it would be better if we can get more respondents in our next experiment. So I think that is all from me and from my group. Again, I repeat, I am Mohd Karim, matrix number AS111128, and my group members, Nabil bin Helmy, Nurul, Shafiqah, Nurul, Zulaikha, and also Aishah. We are from group 5 and from Kuliah 4. I think that is all from us, and I'm speaking from my home. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.